Hi everybody, and welcome to the next video for the course. In this video we pick up with the string material that we left off with last time. So the last video ended with the definition of the data type string, and we just do a bunch of stuff with strings this time, and then we end with a brief comment about how you comment code. So last time we defined string, but we didn't do very much with it. This time I'm just going to give you a barrage of various things you can do with strings. There are all sorts of things you can do with them, and I will show you how they all work, what the syntax is. First, before you do anything with them though, you need this header file up top. So you need to include the package string. So we didn't need that last time because everything we were doing was just declaring a string and giving it a value. But what we're doing extra this time is we're going to actually manipulate strings using built-in functions that somebody else has made. And those built-in functions are included in this library here, the string library. Okay, so the first function we'll look at is the length function. It tells you how long a string is, and the length of a string is simply the number of characters in it. Okay, so think about this, Dr. McCune, the string Dr. McCune. So how many characters are in that string? There's a D, R, period, space, MCCU, and E. That's a total of 10 characters. So let me just put this in here. So string name. So now I can create a variable x, which is name.length. And you do actually need these empty parentheses here. So that's kind of obnoxious, but if you don't include those parentheses, the computer won't know what you're talking about. So now, if I ask the computer to show me what x is, or what its value is, it says 10, because there are 10 characters in this string. Recall from last time, though, that there actually is not a position 10 inside the string. Since C++ starts its position counting at 0, this D is in position 0, R is in position 1, period in position 2, okay, then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So the positions inside the string range from 0 to 9 for a total of 10 characters. Okay, so the length of a string is always one more than the final position. Okay, the final position inside the string is position 9, and the length is 10. That can become confusing. So anyway, that's how you get the number of characters inside of a string. Oh yeah, so this is just diagramming, right? There are 10 characters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But recall from last time, D is in position 0 up to 9. Okay, you can look inside of a string and try to find things if you want. So you can find substrings, in other words. So string name is still the same. If I want to read off a substring, I can do something like this, string, substring. So substring just means you've picked off a piece of a bigger string. And I can do name. So name is the string I'm looking inside. And then SBSTR for substring. And then what I do is I give two numbers, one after the other. This first number here tells the computer where I want it to start looking inside of name. So it's a position start look. So 0, 1, 2. So it will start looking at the period at position 2. So that's where the cursor is right now. That second number tells it how many characters I want. So it's going to start looking here and read off 3 characters. So starting at period, then space, then capital M. That's what substring will be now. So if I ask the computer, hey, what is substring here? Let's see what it thinks. It says period, space M, just as I said, right? And so if I increase that 3 to a 5, now I'm going to get 5 characters starting at the period. So period, space, MCC. Okay, so that's how the substring function works. You give it a start position and then a number of characters that you want. What's confusing about this syntax here is when I write 2 to 5, you might think that means start at position 2, end at position 5. Okay, but notice that's not what's happening here. Here's position 2, 3, 4, 5. So if I were to end at position 5, I would just end with the lowercase c. But notice I actually pick up the uppercase c. Okay, that's because the second number here is not telling you an end position, it's telling you a number of characters. So that's the most common mistake that I see with this function. So yeah, so string, and then whatever the name of the string that you're looking inside of, dot substring, give it a start, give it a length, so a number of characters you want, that gives the substring of my string, starting at position start, of length, whatever this number is that you put here. And just for emphasis one more time, the second number is the length of the substring you want. It's the number of characters you want inside your substring. It is not the end position. So you're not saying start, end. So this is not saying start at 2, end at position 3. It's saying start at position 2, give me 3 characters. You can put a string inside of another string if you want to. So if you want to take that original string name, Dr. McCune, and insert something true at the end of it, so is cool, right? What you do is, the syntax is, the name of the string, in this case I named it name, dot insert now, not dot substring, you're doing something different. This first number is where you want it to insert the substring. So you're going to go inside name, and at that position insert this other string here. So you're telling the insert function where you want it to go and then what you want it to put in there. So let's just go back over to the code. So string, what do I call it? Truth is cool. And now if I do this command, go inside of name, please, and insert, starting at position 9, this other string, which I've called truth. And now I will ask the computer, hey, what is name now? Well, I've gone in, I've messed with name, I've inserted something in there, right? And so is cool is in there at position 9. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Right, so right there is where it puts it. So notice this doesn't look very nice, right? So if I actually wanted it at the end with a space, I suppose I'd have to do that. Whoop, oh, I went too far. Yeah, so now it's at the end. Okay, if you want a space in there, you could put a space right there. And now it will look as you want, if you really want to append it to the end there. So anyway, that's how the insert function works. So if I put a different spot, it just moves that is cool closer to the beginning, right? Starting at position 4. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 now is where is cool starts. Okay, so that's how you can place a string inside of another string. The syntax is name of the string, in our case name, right? Literally name, but you can change the name, of course. Dot insert, where you want it to start the insertion or place the insertion, and then you have to give it another string to put in there. So you can put things in, you can also take them out, you can erase things from a string. So the syntax looks much like the substring syntax, where it's dot, not substring, but dot erase, and you give it 2 numbers. So now what happens is it goes to position 3, and it erases 2 characters rather than putting 2 characters in, or grabbing 2 characters, right, for substring. So in this code here, it will go to position 3, so 0, 1, 2, 3, and it will erase 2 characters. So it will erase the space, it will erase the M. And so all you're left with is the DR, and then picks up right with the C. So if you want to erase something, you tell it where you want it to start erasing, in this case with 3, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, so we'd start with the space, and then how many characters you want it to take out of there. So I told it to take 2 characters out. So as with dot substring, right, the second character, or sorry, the second number is not telling you an end position. It's not saying, oh, start at position 3 and then end at position 2. That's actually nonsensical what I just said in this case, right? But it never means that. It means start at position 3 and then kick 2 characters out of there. Okay, if you want to find a substring inside of another string, you can do it with a, whoa, I left off the dot find here, so the word find shows up. Oh well, I'll do it in the code in a second. But suppose like you have a string called name, right? And you want to know, does the string McCune show up in there? The way you would figure that out is something like this. You would create an integer, so it's going to look for a position. So int x equals, and you do name dot find, and then tell it what you're looking for. You're looking for that. And then tell it where you want it to start looking. Okay, so what this is doing is it's saying, hey, please go inside of name and find this substring for me, this McCune substring. And I want you to start looking from position 0. So what x will become is, it will become the first instance of the name McCune it finds. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It should be 4. 4 is the first time you encounter McCune in there. Well, errors. Okay, why would there be an error? X equals name dot find. Oh, forgot a semicolon. Classic mistake. Okay, well, clear that out. So notice it printed a 4 there, right? So it's telling you, hey, if you're looking for McCune, right, this substring inside of this bigger string, I found it for you. And the first place I found it was at position 4. So notice I could add a bunch more. So now that there are McCunes all over the place now, right? If I run this code again, it will still give me 4 back because I told it, hey, start looking at position 0. So start looking at the beginning and find me the first instance of this that you come across. Give me the position of that. So the first time it sees it is 4. But notice if I start looking later, so if I start my search at position 6, so that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, now it will begin its search right there. So now the first McCune it sees is this one. So it will give me a higher value. It will give me where that McCune starts, which is at position 11, apparently. And then if I update that to 13, now it's going to look even later. It's not looking at the beginning, it's looking all the way right here, right? And so now this McCune is the first one it sees. Okay, so if you want to find something inside of something else, you want to find a substring inside of a different one, you can create an integer variable that gives you the position of what you are looking for. Okay, and you have to tell it what you're looking for, and you have to tell it where you want it to start its search inside of name. You can start at the beginning if you want to, of course, right? Start at position 0, or you can start later, a lot later, right? Depending on how long the string is. Okay, so a natural question to ask here is, this string right here, this name, it contained McCunes, didn't it? It contained a lot of them. So when we searched for McCune, we found one, and we now know the position where it occurs. Well, what if there's no McCune in the string? So I don't know. Let's say maybe Dr. Martin, right? A different math professor. Now if I run this, let me start looking at the beginning. You know, when it looks for McCune, it's not going to find it, right? So the question is, well, what does this value of x become? It's an integer value that's supposed to tell you the first time it sees a McCune. So let's just run it and see what it does. It came back with a value of -1, okay? -1 means I didn't find what you were looking for. You asked me to find McCune. I looked inside this string. I did not find it, right? So it gave you a -1 back. So that's how you can tell if what you're looking for is even there to begin with. So the value of x here, when you do a search like this, a name.find, a string.find, whatever, the value you get will either be -1, in which case what you were looking for wasn't there, or it will be some other value, 0 or higher, and that value will represent the first time it found what you were looking for inside of the string you were searching. Okay, so that's how you can find the position of something you're looking for. So, I just gave you a bunch of information. I sort of shotgunned it at you. Let's put all these things together in a program. So let's write a program that takes the first instance of don't like inside of a phrase the user types and replaces it with something more positive. Okay, don't like is a bad thing to say, right? I'm constantly telling my daughter, right? When you say you don't like dad, you mean you love dad, right? So to do this, let me just put all of my data right here. Here are the 5 functions I introduced to you. Let's clear all this out. Okay, so the user is going to give us something. And I don't need to prompt them. Let's just go ahead and grab it from them. Okay, so what we're supposed to do, let's recall, takes the first instance of don't like and replace it with love. Okay, so if we want to replace a don't like, the first thing I think we need to do is find it, right? So we need to use this find function to figure out where a don't like occurs. So let's do that first. So int x is user string dot find, and let's look for the phrase don't like, and let's start from the beginning, right? So let's just find the first instance of don't like. Okay, so now I know where a don't like occurs, right? So let's just, we're not done yet, but let's just run this and see what happens. So like, here's what my daughter might say when she's mad, right? I don't like you, Dad, right? Okay, we found don't like at position 2 is what it's saying, right? So 0, 1, 2. So this is finding the position of don't like, the first instance, right? So as before, if my toddler is being really obnoxious, right? I don't like you, oops, you Dad. You know, I really don't like you. All right, so don't like occurs a couple of times. It'll still give me a 2 back because I told it to start looking at the beginning, right? So it's not going to tell me where that one is. Okay, so let's keep going. We now know where don't like occurs the first time, right? Now we need to erase it to get it out of there and then insert the word love in its place. Okay, so how would that work? So we have an erase function, right? So user string dot erase. We have to tell it where we want to start erasing. Well, we want to erase this don't like, don't we? So let's start there at this position we just found. And then we have to tell it how many characters we want it to erase. There are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 characters in that string. You have to include the apostrophe, that's a single character. Okay. So now we've kicked that don't like out of there. And what we want to do is insert at the same position the string love. So now we can say, I think you meant to say, and just give the updated version of this. So let's see if this works. So my toddler says, I don't like you, Dad. And I say, I think you meant to say, I love you, Dad, right? So the don't like has been replaced by a love. You found the don't like, you then erased it, you then inserted a love in its place at the same spot where it was, right? So don't love was at this position X, and that's where you put, or sorry, don't like was at position X. So at that position where you kicked it out, you then inserted a different word, and now here you go, you've changed it. So that's how you can do things like search and replace things, right? Okay. So let me just finish with a brief comment about how you can comment code. So what that means is, to comment out code means to make certain lines of code invisible to the compiler, not to you because you will still be able to read it, but it actually just makes whatever comes next invisible to the compiler. So there are many reasons you might want to do this, but among other things, it's a useful way to communicate to a reader what you've been doing, or it can help you debug to find errors. So like right here, I could write in my code, if I'm writing this for somebody else later, you know, here's where I do the replacing. So a single comment, you do backslash backslash, and then notice it's green, it's in a different color. So the computer won't see this. What I'm doing is I'm telling the user what happens in the next 2 lines of code. Here's where I do the replacing of don't like by love. So notice if I uncomment that, the computer yells at me. It's like, what is this, right? I don't understand this. But with the backslash backslash, it's invisible to the computer. So if you don't want to comment out a single line of code, if you want to comment out more than that, you do backslash asterisk and then asterisk backslash will close the comment. So that's how you can comment out a huge chunk of code. So again, this won't be useful to us right now, but later when we write more sophisticated programs, let's say your program has like 7 different chunks, and there's something wrong with the program, but you can't figure out where. Well, what you could do is you could just one at a time comment out each of those 7 chunks and then run the program and see when it starts to work. So like, let's say I comment out my 7th chunk and then I hit compile and the program runs. Well, that means that my error must have occurred in that 7th chunk, so then I can uncomment that code and mess with it. So commenting is also a useful way of helping you find out where an error occurred. Okay, so at the end of this video, here's the summary. You should be comfortable with these functions, how to use them, what their syntax is, and comfortable with that example program I gave you. Let me just say that you are not expected to have this stuff memorized right here. Okay, so the syntax and stuff is not worth memorizing. So on your first exam, you'll be given this table. So don't worry about memorizing, worry about knowing how to use them. And of course in class, we'll have plenty of practice. So that's all for now.